Alguns dos primeiros autores escreveram suas peças e poemas em torno de temas críticos sobre os deuses, algo que os filósofos condenavam veementemente.
Plato's criticism of traditional literature and of the stories in them was that the gods essentially didn't act like gods. I think Plato especially was very uncomfortable with that because of his own notion of what a god ought to be. You can see some of the same critique in Euripides, in his tragedies, his sense that, gods shouldn't really act the way that a lot of the myths he's treating dramatically show them.
Certainly when you look at a drama like the Ion, in which Apollo is represented as a rapist, you begin to question the value of a god like that.
Alguns filósofos acreditavam que a redenção era a moral da história. No final da peça, a mulher que tinha sido estuprada se torna a mãe do filho de Apolo, Íon. Ele cresce para se tornar o líder da cidade-estado de Atenas. Muitas das peças refletiam o lado mais tempestuoso da natureza humana no comportamento com os deuses. Sexualidade e assuntos do coração eram controlados por Afrodite, a deusa da beleza, do amor e da fertilidade. Assim como Apolo, Afrodite teve uma vida turbulenta.
Aphrodite was connected with warfare through her union, her affair with Ares, the god of war. And they were two famous lovers. Aphrodite wasn't actually married to Ares. She was married to Hephaestus, or Vulcan, the god of the forge. But she had this flaming affair with Ares, the war god. And the question is, why are these two always getting together? It's the fury of their mutual passions which made them two gods that were beyond the control of all the other gods. And as the saying goes, that every lover is a soldier on a campaign.
Os primeiros escritos gregos transmitiam lições da vida cotidiana. Mesmo assim, algumas obras refletiam uma atitude ostensiva e sexista em relação à mulher. Um exemplo disso é a história de Hipólito.
He despised women, he despised female sexuality, he was chaste, pure. We'd send him to a psychiatrist, but pure as the snow. His stepmother's nurse, handmaid, went to Hippolytus and told Hippolytus that his stepmother was in love with him. Hippolytus was appalled. He was horrified.
When Greek men got together at the drinking parties, at the symposia, we know that they told stories, that they produced poetry, which made fun of women. In early Greek culture, women were seen as consumers of men's effort. The man had to farm, the woman simply consumed the effort, stayed at home, cooked, and was always on the man's back. And there's a strong misogynistic strain in Greek literature all the way through the 5th and the 4th century.
Então, grandes dramas e comédias eram representados em teatros gregos. Com um elenco masculino fazendo tanto papéis de deuses como de deusas, dos homens mortais e das mulheres. Mas os gregos não foram os únicos entusiasmados pelas histórias de divindades e heróis. Outros também estavam alertas. No Ocidente, além do Mediterrâneo, um grande e novo império estava nascendo. A seguir, a sombra da poderosa Roma cai sobre a Grécia Antiga. Os deuses e deusas gregos, assim como a Grécia clássica, conheceriam a devastação do tempo e da mudança. Como divindades em ação, eles iriam depois deslizar para as brumas da história. E mesmo assim, não desapareceram por completo.
Even though they're not part of our religion, we still need these stories. They're wonderful, richly suggestive tales about how the world works and what we are as human beings. Generation after generation of modern students love and are fascinated by these myths. And I think that springs from something we all have in us, which is a desire to make stories, a need to understand the world by making stories about it.
A mitologia grega transcendeu os séculos, chegando até nós não só através de grandes poetas e escritores de peças, mas através de condutos de muitas outras culturas. Uma das primeiras foi Roma, no Ocidente. Ela absorveu muito do que a Grécia tinha a oferecer.
The Romans discovered Greek religion really in the 3rd century BC and began to make a bigger deal of it than it had been before. We know that there had been cultural contact for a long time, but there was a kind of prestige to the Greeks that the Romans felt they didn't have. And so they took over really the Olympian system and aligned their own local gods with more recognizable high-status Greek gods.
Ao adotar os deuses dos gregos, os romanos lotaram um panteão de divindades com características romanas longínquas. A maior prioridade era arranjar nomes romanos para eles.
Zeus became Jupiter in their terms. Ares became Mars. Athena became Minerva. When I say became, I mean that they had these gods existing already, Minerva, Mars, Jupiter, but they now aligned them in a new way that said, yes, we're part of a continuum of culture with the higher status Greeks.
Outros deuses adotados pelos romanos incluíam Hera, conhecida como Juno. Poseidon foi renomeado como Netuno. Hades reemergiu como Plutão. Afrodite seria imortalizada para sempre como a deusa Vênus. E assim, o panteão grego, em sua grande extensão, se tornou o panteão romano. Quando a poderosa Roma se desenvolveu em um império, acabou ocupando um canto pouco conhecido e empoeirado do Oriente Médio, chamado Judéia. Aqui, os hebreus se agrupavam ao redor de sua capital, Jerusalém, onde uma nova religião estava nascendo. Depois da crucificação de Cristo, seus ensinamentos se espalharam rapidamente. Até o cristianismo encontrou conexões da filosofia grega e romana, especialmente através do apóstolo Paulo.
We know that Paul was educated in Greco-Roman terms. He quotes Euripides at least several times in his epistles. Later on, notions that had developed in Platonism especially became crucial in the ways in which early Christians tried to make their religion more understandable to a highly educated class in the Greco-Roman world. In the Orthodox Church, even today, the Greek Christian Church, you still see some of the mysticism that you can identify in the works of Plato in the 4th century BC.
A crença cristã de que Jesus era o Filho de Deus, ainda que nascido de uma mulher mortal, também ressoava com os primeiros gregos.
Because Greek religion was completely comfortable with the notion of gods interacting with human women, I think it helped in the spread of Christianity at an early period that a narrative like that was at its core. And so we'll never know cause and effect, and I certainly don't want to attribute early Christianity wholly to the Greeks, but it helped that the groundwork was laid.
Apesar do enorme número de divindades que reinavam sobre os gregos, há poucos séculos antes do nascimento de Cristo, uma nova ideia se espalhou entre as pessoas: a noção da existência de apenas um Deus verdadeiro.
The Greek world shifted towards monotheism, I would say, sometime around the 400s and 300s BC, with the advent of philosophy. And philosophers like Plato and Aristotle who were skeptical of the Greek religion, the way it was written in mythology, but they did believe in some supreme force, some supreme, all-good, all-knowing kind of power.
Tal movimento em direção ao monoteísmo na Grécia Antiga não passou despercebido pelo apóstolo Paulo. Um dia, em Atenas, Paulo se dirigiu aos cidadãos gregos do topo do Areópago, uma colina que era um lugar de reunião para um conselho de nobres.
Mas Paulo, de pé no centro do Areópago, disse: Homens de Atenas, percebo que em todas as coisas são muito supersticiosos. Estava de passagem e, vendo seus ídolos, encontrei um altar, no qual estava escrito ao Deus desconhecido. O que estavam louvando sem saber é o que prego a vocês. Deus que criou o mundo e tudo o que há nele, e que de um homem criou a humanidade para habitar toda a face da terra. Ato, capítulo 17, versículo 22.
Uma das forças mais potentes que moldou o pensamento grego foi a consciência do pecado. Mas, há 2000 anos, o conceito de pecado era muito diferente do existente na crença dos primeiros cristãos.
The Greek word for sin, the closest one, is a word that means to miss the mark, to err, to go wrong. Now, what does that mean? To sin, if you go too high, it means that you're stepping beyond human limitations. If you go too low, it means that you're not living up to your fulfillment. And so, for the Greeks, a sin was really not fulfilling who you are.
Apesar de separados de nós por vários milênios, o grande esplendor de deuses, deusas, heróis, musas, destinos e graças, de elevadas conquistas e amargas derrotas, é tão significativo hoje quanto era para os gregos antigos.
The interesting thing about the Greeks at that period who venerated these gods, but they gave to the gods the attitude also of human beings. There was the fighting, there was the jealousy, there was the adultery, there was the happiness, there was the truth, there was the peace. There were all the things that were going on in everyday's life of the human beings was also associated with the gods. And I think that is part of the reason why these things have survived all these centuries in the minds of people and identified in the way the Greeks think even today.
The Greek myths is a whole body of narratives. Say something very complicated about the world. They speak to a kind of optimism and a kind of pessimism at the same time. Greek myth as a whole really does tell us through a lot of exemplary stories, a lot of different things about the nature of reality, the nature of life, what's important, what we ought to care about.
One of the major lessons is that to read any of these stories, which are timeless treatments of big human questions of personal morality versus the morality of the state and laws that are imposed, and how do you negotiate these very difficult questions of the best behavior as a citizen in the state, those are addressed by Greek myths and by Greek legends. And you are left with this feeling that we don't know really what these gods are or who they are. But we know there's some force out there. There's some huge force that's controlling our lives, and that we have to keep an open mind to what that force is doing. That's why the Greeks can speak across 3,000 years of history and tell us some questions, if not the answers, to some of the most perturbing eternal questions in the world.
Existiu outro mundo aqui outrora, e os deuses, deusas e pessoas que nele viveram ainda assombram a paisagem. Suas histórias ainda viajam através do tempo.